We've heard a lot about the need for the underlying bill because of needing to crack down on so-called voter fraud or possible future voter fraud. So this amendment will actually address the only election fraud that took place in Florida in the last cycle. What we are doing is we are saying any candidate, campaign manager, treasurer, deputy treasurer, or any candidate, committee chair, vice chair, campaign treasurer, deputy treasurer, or other officer of a political committee, or agent or person acting on behalf of any one of those individuals cannot knowingly and willfully solicit and influence a third-party sham candidate to run in a race that has no intention of winning that race or of trying to be elected to public office. We make that a third-degree felony in this bill because we think it's really, really important to crack down on the actual election fraud that, of course, resulted in the indictment of former GOP State Senator Frank Artiles and has also implicated Congressman Matt Gaetz. That is the amendment.
Thank you for that detailed explanation of your amendment. Members, any questions? All right. Rep. Joseph, in a question, pointed and direct, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question for Ranking Member is, outside of the incident that you just identified with former Senator Artiles, has there been any other kinds of fraud in Florida in our past election cycle?
I'm sorry, Rep.
That the amendment may apply to?
That is not pertaining to his amendment, ma'am.
That the amendment may apply to?
Thank you, Representative Joseph. It absolutely pertains to the amendment because what we have learned based on the details of a federal investigation that is currently underway is that there were other state Senate races where this type of election fraud also took place, particularly one, I believe, in Senate District 9, which is in Central Florida, in my own backyard. And so we're seeing that this is becoming a problem, that it actually is a web of election corruption and fraud that tangles up many races across the state of Florida, which is why I've brought this amendment forward, because I care about election integrity.
Very good. Ranking Member Payne. Vice Chair Payne, sorry.
Chair Ngoli, what is your position on the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, members, you're right. This, Ranking Member Smith, this bill is about cracking down on the potential for fraud. So I understand what you're trying to say, I understand what you're trying to get at, and it definitely warrants further conversation. As we're moving through this committee process, we were trying to make the bill better and better and incorporate a lot of ideas. I would ask everybody to vote down on this amendment because I think the amendment, while well-intentioned, is drafted poorly. And it is starting on lines 19 and on 27, the amendment, the standard being established as a candidate whom does not use his or her best efforts and skill and does not strive earnestly to win elections. That is purely subjective. And I think it would create a lot of confusion and a lot of problems with that. There's also no definition of solicitation in the amendment, again, causing unreasonable and unreasonable standards. So I would ask everybody to vote down on the amendment, but I do plan on continuing to listen and work on that issue.
Very good. We're going to move into debate. Any debate, members? In debate, Rep. Hardy.
Thank you. I'll be brief. That was the most notable instance of voter fraud in this last election, and that was the only instance of voter fraud to which the legislature has not saw fit to respond. There is a cloud over the office of one senator here in the state of Florida today, and we could prevent any future elected official, any future office holder from having such a cloud hang over their office by adopting this good amendment, and I will be supporting it for that reason. The voters deserve to have confidence in the outcome of their elections. This was the most important instance of fraudulent behavior with respect to an election, and I think that it merits an immediate response.
Very good. Before we move on, Rep. Mooney move we extend 15 minutes without objection. That motion is adopted, and we have Rep. Bartleman in debate.
Yes. I have to say that this bill is being brought forward because we want to ensure there's no election fraud. We're talking about, I can't drop off my neighbor's ballot unless I have her declaration form. We're talking about whether or not we can give water. We're
Rep.
talking
Hardeman,
about
we're in
lines.
debate on the
And this-
amendment.
Okay, I am.
On the
But
amendment.
this amendment, sir, I apologize, Chair. This amendment, though, is the one amendment that is addressing the only true documented case of voter fraud where an arrest has been made, where there's a federal indictment, where there are other investigations, and yet when this bill has been moving through the committees, and at one point, did the sponsor of the bill say, oh, maybe I should add language to address the real fraud going on here, and now I have to possibly wait to the floor to see if you're going to address it. So for me, I'm urging everyone to vote up on this bill because it's the only time anyone has tried to attempt to address voting fraud in a voting fraud bill.
Very good. Rep. Hinson, in debate on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with my colleagues. I actually know of this happening. It has been happening for some time. And the fact that it occurs, and it occurs rather frequently, I think we should move this amendment forward so that you can use some time to work this out.
Very good. You're recognized to close, Rep. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, there's a lot of things in Florida elections law that is illegal. There's a lot of things in federal law that is illegal. What we know is that conspiracy to make or accept campaign contributions in excess of legal limits is illegal. Accepting and making those excess campaign contributions is illegal. False swearing in connection to an election and aiding in and eventually submitting false voter information is illegal. These are all charges under which Frank Artiles has been indicted for. What he has not been indicted for, and no one else has been indicted for, is participating in a scheme to manipulate voters and swing the results of an election. Why? Because the scheme itself of recruiting a sham candidate to throw off the results of an election, the scheme itself is not illegal. This amendment makes that type of election fraud illegal and will dissuade candidates or individuals from any party with any agenda from doing this in the future. I appreciate that Rep. Ngulia had questions or concerns about my amendment language as he's trying to nitpick through one of my amendments and look for excuses to say that it's unfriendly. But with all due respect, he had all session long to address the real election fraud from the last cycle. It is not in his bill. He found time to file 11 amendments in the last committee on this bill. And I think that the voters deserve us to take election fraud seriously. So if you agree with me that it's important that we crack down on any type of election fraud that's actually happening, please vote yes on this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Having closed on his amendment, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. No. Seeing two hands. Tori, please call the vote.
Representatives Altman,
No.
Bartleman,
Yes.
Buchanan,
No.
Chambliss,
Yes.
Cheney,
Yes.
Drake,
No.
Cheney.
Fisher,
No.
Gianlombardo,
No.
Goff Marcel,
Yes.
Hardy,
Yes.
Hinson,
Yes.
Joseph,
Yes.
McFarland. No. Mooney,
No.
Overdorf,
No, ma'am.
Payne,
No.
Roth,
No.
C. Smith,
Yes.
D. Smith,
No.
Stevenson,
No.
Toledo, no. Woodson, Zika, Chair Masulo,
No.
9 yeas, 15 nays.
Members, by your vote, show that amendment fails.
I agree with the sentiments of my Democratic colleagues